Hey guys, it's Rich from Rich Rebuilds, aka the artist formerly known as Car Guru, aka Uncle Rich, aka I'm sorry I didn't know that was your wife. And I wanted to do a recap of the project that I've been working on called The Red Car, the one that quickly spiraled out of control. So make sure you hit that like button. This is the recap you all have been asking for. Now, some backstory for you on the names I chose for the cars. I have Dolores, the black Tesla. She was named after the fictional character on a stupid little show about artificial intelligence that you probably never heard of. It's called Westworld. I named her Dolores because, one, I like the show, and also because in Westworld, Dolores is a version 1 robot, meaning she's one of the first robots ever made, and so is this black Tesla. This Tesla was one of the first Teslas to ever come out of the Tesla factory way back in 2012. It has a low number VIN, so I thought it deserved the name Dolores. Now, the red car I started over a year ago when I had like 2,000 subscribers, and the project has kind of taken a backseat to Dolores. So the red car,
Spell red.
Red, L-S-T-E-R.
that's the car I've always wanted even before I found Dolores. I wanted the fast one, the P85D, the 3 seconds 0 to 60. Yes, the one when it came out, all of those videos on the internet went wild because of its crazy acceleration. Those videos started popping up everywhere, people's reactions in the front seat. Yes, that's the car that I wanted. But they were way too expensive back then, so I quote unquote settled for Dolores. Once Dolores was built and she was converted from a regular S85 to a more powerful and better handling P85 Plus, I drove her around for a few months and thought, wow, she's a pretty quick car, but I wanted more. Remember, I've owned some pretty fast cars, so the hunger for more acceleration was always there. In the last 2 years alone, I had a modified Jeep SRT8, a supercharged 300C SRT8, I have a built Z06, and various sport bikes over the last couple years. So I'm no stranger to fast automobiles, and honestly, Dolores satisfied my day-to-day needs, but didn't scratch the itch for neck-snapping power. So I went online one day and I found this gem that was absolutely beat to death. The car looks like it rolled over 55 times. It wasn't yet available for sale, but I watched the auction like a hawk. Every single day, I refreshed the page and set up alerts for when this car go up for sale. An entire year passed by and Dolores was finished and driving, and this car was still sitting in an abandoned field uncovered. Now, one morning I got an alert that the car would be up for bidding and I started salivating. Yes, I could finally get the P85D that wasn't running or driving for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 grand or so. Well, that's not what happened. Bidding day came up and the pre-bids were at $10,000. Someone was willing to pay $10,000 for this car, so I had to up my bid to $14,000. The car got to $13,500, so I bit my tongue and I put in a bid for $20,000. The bidding went to 14, then 16, then 18,500. I ended up winning the car for $18,570, which is one of the biggest mistakes I've made on my bidding career. I fell in love with this car and I overpaid what I thought was a huge margin. Note to yourself, folks, never fall in love. Now, the plan for the red car was to harvest all of the electronics, save them, and patiently wait for a flooded car to show up, and then swap all of the parts over into the flooded car. That is the red car's sole purpose. The red car is a donor car that was never meant to be repaired. Now, after I won the red car and cleared up my kids' college savings, I organized to have the car shipped to my friend Freddie's tow yard. Me and my buddy JJ took the 4-hour trip with my friend Sean's truck and went to go pick it up. As you can see here, it takes a village. I'm begging, borrowing, and stealing from everyone here just to help myself out. After the 4-hour drive, we jumped out of the truck and I laid eyes on her. Jesus Christ, this is what $18,000 plus shipping looks like. The car was shaped like a rhombus. The seats were destroyed. I assumed the seats would be fine, and this is not the way. This is pretty bad, actually. Here's why this is really bad. In my last owner car, the front and rear seats were perfectly intact, so that is one less thing I had to buy. Unfortunately, this one was done. Dead. I can't even use the interior. The driver's bag exploded. The glass cut the seats. Everything was terrible. The front suspension was messed up. The rear suspension was messed up. This was a mistake. It had no passenger side rear suspension. The brakes and wheels were plain missing. Extensive body damage. I had an idea of what I was getting to. However, I didn't realize it was this bad. I took one look at this car and I named her Maeve. Maeve is another character from that Westworld show that I ran a brothel, aka a whorehouse. She was a Generation 2 robot, which was more advanced. I named her Maeve because it's a perfect yin and yang between Maeve and Dolores. Maeve is far smarter and better than Dolores because she's a much newer car, and she also has a few tricks up her sleeve. She can drive herself. Yes, she has autopilot. All right, well, loaded up, I suppose. We get her rigged onto a U-Haul trailer and got out of Dodge. I dropped my buddy JJ off somewhere in New York because, quite frankly, he didn't want anything to do with this trip. So I started the long drive home, and of course, after driving back several hours, when I'm only an hour away, it starts snowing insanely heavily, and that 1 hour drive took me 3 hours. So anyways, I got it home and decided to do a quick analysis of the car. I was dying to know if a Tesla in this condition could have possibly saved the driver. He had to have been dead, or at least pretty banged up. I sat in the driver's seat, looked at the clearance between the roofline and the front seat, and the roofline wasn't crushing my head. I think this guy may have lived, actually. So over the next few months, I visited the car every few weeks or so at my buddy Sean's house to slowly harvest the parts that I need from the car, which was everything. And before I started really digging into things, I wanted to see if this car was still functional. So I decided to take an old Tesla battery that I had laying around and hook them up to the jumper cables of the car, and this happened. We may hear some clicks. We may hear some buzzing. The car may explode. I don't know what's going to happen. So, let's see. No freaking way. No freaking way. The door handle's just extended. There's no freaking way. No way. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. You gotta be kidding me. Holy crap, there's life in this thing. Holy shit, the car actually works. All 4 door handles extended and the computer screen turns on. The seats went back and forth. This thing had life in it. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I had the key and I jumped the pyro fuse, this car would attempt to drive. This was pretty damn incredible. So I kept working on the car using kitchen knives to cut the windshield glass and also find time to hang out with the neighborhood kids. So I actually went into the GPS and found the guy's address. I had to find out to see if this guy lived or not. My buddy Sean looked at me and said, hey, you know what? I have to drop my Z06 off in Delaware to get some engine work done to it. And the owner happens to live an hour away from that. Let's take a ride. So we dropped Sean's car off in Delaware, where I had an orgasm of all these cars. See, now gas-powered cars are in my veins. I love gas-powered cars. I had a blast looking around their shop. Anyways, so we leave to head to see if the owner was okay and drive around this area with multi-million-dollar houses and pull up to this mansion, knock on the door, and a lovely woman that looks like she's never worked an honest day in her life opened the door. I asked her by chance, did anyone here own a Tesla? She said, yes, her husband did. I said, well, I bought this car that was wrecked and I wanted to make sure your husband was okay. And she said, yes, he walked away from that accident. He's fine, and the car saved his life. Then he went out and bought a Porsche Panamera. Anyways, I thanked her for her time, wished her well, gave her my email address to give to her husband, and I was never reached out to. Anyways, Sean and I drove all the way back, got back to work on the car again. Week 1, I removed the seats, which still went back and forth, which was awesome. Week 2, I removed the charging infrastructure, the 12-volt battery, and the chargers in the rear seat. I also recovered the coolant with the milk jug. Week 3, I invited the Now You Know guys over to help me emotionally remove the rear motor from Maeve. However, I do wish they helped me physically in some way. Week 4, I laid in dog shit while I removed the battery pack, while my 2 friends didn't even help me emotionally or physically. And some sun. Sean's working on his tan. Nice. On week 5, I removed the front motor with a kitchen knife. Woo! And that's Maeve's recap. This is how she sits right now, and the next couple episodes about Maeve will be about me removing the front wiring harness. The one after that will be about me removing the body panels, finding a rat's nest in the door speaker, and miscellaneous odds and ends before scrapping the shell. That's all the time I have for today, folks. Thanks everyone for watching. I've harvested the majority of Maeve's electronics, and I'm currently looking for another Tesla build. I hope I didn't bore everyone to death. Stay tuned for the next installment of Tearing Down Maeve. I will see you guys soon.